Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table A Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says.
Welcome, everyone. This is Curt Sumner, host for Surveyor Says, the podcast series for NSPS. Thank you for joining us again. Today, my guest is Jared Wilson, who I won't try to exactly say what your position is, but he's an instructor, at least at East Tennessee State University, which I'm on the advisory team. I'm not active as I should be. In earlier years, I was able to get down to more meetings, and we just had one recently over the internet, which was easier to do. But I don't know, Jared, if unique is a right word or not for the program from the perspective of the arrangements with students from surrounding states. I know there's a lot of distance learning going on now. Great Basin's doing a good job what they're doing, and they're totally distance. And University of Maine, a lot of other programs, I don't want to leave anybody out. I know that a lot of other programs are starting to do that. You guys have been doing it for a while, and
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's somewhat associated to the fact that you do have students from surrounding states that just maybe makes it easier for them.
Exactly. That was the goal, was to have the working students availability and access, to the land surveying education. Now, what I've been finding is now I've had more conversations with potential students who are thinking, I want a career change. Yeah, I want to do something different. And I had a conversation about an hour yesterday with a potential student, and he's a cook, and he wants to come into the program and see what he's doing. And he already has a 1 degree, and I'm speaking with him, and he goes, so it's probably going to be better for me to work with a surveyor for the lab components, even though all our lecture components are offered at a distance. We still want to try to maintain that technical, hands-on component as well. And I told him kind of the ways that we do things, and that's going to be the key, in my opinion, if the profession wants to maintain, the high integrity of the education and that technical expertise. Is we're going to have a lot of the companies jump in and allow students, which they do. I mean, that's one thing that I have to give a shout out to the surveyors in the profession, that whenever a student does work for them, they are helping them out. But that's the challenge, is how can we have students get the technical hands-on experience, so whenever they go out in the workforce, they can set up a total station, they know how to run a level loop, some of the basics. But as far as just the straight up education to pass the FS, and in theory, you wouldn't have to have any of the technical, hands-on experience, which, in my opinion, probably would diminish the education of the, surveying programs.
Yeah, I can understand that, because it does make sense to be sort of a on-the-job trainer or on-the-job student, so to speak, where
exactly
you're not only getting the coursework that you need, but you're also getting that practical experience every day. You get a sense of, what's all this leading to that I'm studying about.
Exactly.
It's got to be helpful from that perspective, I would think. And I don't know what the statistics are out there, and maybe there aren't any that are captured anywhere, but I am curious about the people who are coming to schools sort of after the fact. People have heard me say this so much they're tired of hearing me saying it, but that's kind of what I did. I worked for 3 years on a DOT survey crew before I went to college, and I didn't have the option to do it distance learning back in those days. But I have to believe there's a number of people out there that are working in surveying. But as you pointed out, when you said the guy was a cook, people are doing other things too that want to go
Exactly.
back.
I was not expecting that. I was expecting him to be, maybe a environmental engineer, a geoscience major, something. But he goes, no, I'm a cook, and his degree was in nothing related. It wasn't even in a STEM program, and I'm like, wow. And he goes, it's just something that interests me because I kind of he goes, I kind of have an artistic flair, but I dabble in cartography. And he goes, I just kind of looking it up, and he goes, it just popped up on my screen one day on land surveying, and I'm like, wow. And he was really excited about it, but he wanted to not lose that artistic flair. And I told him about one of my friends up in West Virginia. He primarily does boundary surveys, and his name is Bill Monser, and he's a great boundary surveyor. And every one of his plats I told him is unique in itself, because it's kind of like the survey itself dictates the artistic expression of the plat, and it's not a canned title block. It's not a generic kind of thing, and he puts honestly the mood of the survey in the plat. And whenever I was speaking with this, not a young man. I mean, he's as old as I am, which is not very old, but anyway, he was really excited about that, and he was really wanting to kind of gather that as much information as he could in the time that he had me for, to maybe think about coming in. And a lot of the students, my distance students, or even my on-site students as well, typically they kind of know somebody who's a surveyor. They have a family member, something like that, who kind of got them into surveying. But sometimes it's honestly one of these things that now people are looking for a career that can provide them with a mix of, I'm inside, I'm outside, I can, start my own business. I can, play with a lot of, and of course, whenever we say, play, we do play with high-tech toys. But it's one of those things I can utilize a lot of different tools to, solve the problem. I'm not just stuck behind a desk day in, day out, day in, day out. And that's what this guy was finding was it just, a monotonous kind of thing. And that's what other, people, when they've come to me, they're like, and even in some of the, engineering fields are like, I can't just sit behind a desk, all day long. I mean, I want some diversity, and surveying offers that diversity. We have a good mix, so we have an excellent profession.
That's true. And as you were talking about that, I made a note to myself that that's another avenue that we collectively as a profession should really be thinking about, is looking for those types of students. We're always recruiting to high schools or all the places we feel we need to be, but there's that other group of people out there that we haven't reached necessarily yet. We haven't really even tried to reach them. They just sort of come to us by accident, I guess, or through the,
Yeah, exactly.
That artistic thing. I think all of us that have lived through the time when we actually drew our plats get that whole artistic thing. It's like, I can remember so vividly going to the local courthouses when I first got into surveying back in southwestern Virginia, and going to the courthouse and looking up plats, and you could look at it before you ever knew who did it and tell who did it.
Yeah.
Because everybody had their own style, and people had these flowery North Arrow things and all kinds of cool stuff. And
awesome
obviously stuff. In West Virginia, you saw that as well. And
absolutely. And
speaking of West Virginia, the audience may not know that you actually were over there teaching for a while before now.
9 years. Yep. And and again, kind of going on this artistic kind of bit of it. I remember one of my first, again, I'm following a rabbit hole here, but one of my first times ever, drafting by hand, in a live, work setting. We had this Mylar plat. My boss brings it to me, and he sets it down. And again, usually we would get a CAD file. We would mess with the CAD file, but again, we were not able to get a CAD file. We had a Mylar plat, and he sets it on my desk and goes, "Look," he goes, "we need to fix this, 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 and this." And I'm like, how am I said, "What do you want me to do? Just strike through it?" And he goes, "No, you need to erase it." I'm like, "With what?" I'm like, "This is ink." and he hands me this, this mechanical electric contraption of an eraser. He goes, "Here, here's what you do." I'm like, "All right." Well, he didn't tell me how to use it. I figured, heck, I'll just plug it in and go for it. That's what I did. I plugged it in, and guess what? I burned a hole plumb through the Mylar.
Oh yeah, right away.
And I'm like, well, this ain't gonna work out too well. I went back. I'm like, Ed. I'm like, look what I did. Well, Ed was a pretty good guy. He kind of gave me a good chewing, but other than that, he goes, "Look, you got to go kind of gently here." I'm like, "Well, no, I've never used one of these before." But it's pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, as we're having this conversation, probably some of the people that are going to listen to this are going to think, "What the heck are they talking about?"
Yeah, it may be. Yeah, but I'll tell you, that plastic burned through real quick.
Yeah. So with your cooperative agreement, how many states are involved in that?
In the academic common market, or just with
the one for students coming in, like somebody from Virginia coming to the school, or somebody from Kentucky or whatever?
Well, the way that
tuition, or how does that work?
The students themselves can go to the academic common market and look at the potential program that they want. So every state may not be listed on the Academic Common Market's webpage, but if a program is not offered in their state, then they do have the ability to apply for the Academic Common Market. So, in that, I would recommend that students look to see if there's anything in their state that is offered in the land surveying program field. And this is where it kind of gets really diverse. There's a lot of programs out there that may have the potential to look like a land surveying program, but in essence they're not. And this, one, I kind of revert back to the guy I was talking with yesterday. He was looking at, I think he said 3 or 4 different schools, and they had GIS and had geosciences, and I'm like, well, I said those are all great programs. I'm like, but it's not land surveying. I'm like, you're still going to have. I said, if you want to become a land surveyor in Tennessee or North Carolina, some of these states, you're going to have that degree, and that's where I would, I told him, I said, now this, our degree at ETSU, we're ABET accredited, just went through our accreditation cycle, and for the most part, with the entire U.S., would satisfy the state requirements. I'm like, with the other ones, you're going to have to, one, look to see and probably submit your stuff to the different licensing boards to see if they're going to accept that and what you may have to do additionally. But that's whenever I always direct the students to look at the academic common market and see if they're eligible for that. It's kind of like speaking for a state board. I'm not going to speak for a state board and say that our degree will, that they will accept our degree, but being a 4-year ABET accredited program, that is the standard for the education. So they typically do accept those. But that's what I always try to do, is I don't speak for the academic common market. I don't speak for any state boards. I direct the students to those individual entities, and then they can look. But I know we have Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, which again surrounding counties of North Carolina, because I know there's a program in North Carolina that's really good too, NCA&T. But we do have students for all those surrounding areas.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting where you're located, just because all those states are a stone's throw away, pretty much.
Exactly. An hour and a half, and you're right there.
Yeah.
Yep. And which I'm going to kind of hop back to one of the questions, how we deal with the distance learning lab components. gentleman, he was from one of these surrounding towns, states. So it was really close. And I told him, I said, look, I said, if you can't find a surveyor and you are within, again, that stone's throw of ETSU, I said, I have had a student come up from South Carolina and we have a lab day. I mean, I personally scheduled a day with him. It was a Saturday to be with him on site in the lab setting. And we just worked that entire day getting those labs done. So there are, I'm going to say, thoughts, processes in the works for students in the semester to have them be able to satisfy, even if they're not working for a surveyor. That would be the ideal situation. But with them, with the ability of them being a stone's throw away, we can schedule something up and be like, all right, we're going to meet this day on 2 times a semester for a laboratory, for a lab boot camp. You drive up, we start at 8, we end at 6, end of story, and we knock out as much as we can with the field work in that day. So, but yeah, it's pretty fun.
I know one of the things I was impressed with when I first got involved with the advisory group was at that time, and maybe still true, there were a number of former students who were in the general area who were part of that group, and they brought so much enthusiasm to being part of it.
Oh yeah, we have we have quite a few students on the advisory committee, and that's one thing I would like to have more students from the program on the advisory committee. I'm not saying that our advisory committee is very engaged and very good advisory committee, but the more I'm going to say opinions and the more I'm not gonna, well, then you get into that inverse square law in a committee setting. But whenever you have as much knowledge and differing views and opinions being looked at a potential problem, then at that point in time, almost all the variables are laid out on the table then to be able to solve that problem. And if you're thinking from a logical standpoint, you have to have every variable, of the problem, of the equation to solve it. So with that many people, and again, having people from more, from the program itself, seeing the problems that have happened in the past, and then having, external entities, people who have not been affiliated with the program except from an advisory capacity looking at it, then all those variables come to play, and a solution generally is going to be for the best, interest of the students.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I know there's several Virginia guys, we don't have a program in state anymore. And I know the Virginia Association supports the program pretty strongly and through their scholarship program and what have you. But I'm always, I don't know what the right term is, but it's interesting the enthusiasm that the Virginia guys seem to have. And boy, they were really, we just had that meeting the other night, and they're really into it for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's an understatement, and that's one of the things that, well, it's true. I mean, we have Steve Dowdy and Dave Ingram. I mean, I'm telling you, those two guys right there. I mean, they are, they're great, and just the sheer bluntness of Steve, I have to appreciate. I appreciate and love that, and just the support that Virginia gives us it's amazing, and we can't thank again our supporters enough, because right now with COVID, and I won't get into the whole COVID thing, but it has put such a burden on all programs, and just the support that we have now, from these, from the entire advisory committee. And then I run a question by the committee on Monday, because, we spent, Jen, Professor Hong, and myself, and then Mary Young and Jerry Taylor, we, spent the last, I'm going to say almost year and a half, it'd be 2 years in the fall, looking at our curriculum and how we want to proceed, with, changes to better benefit the distance students, the students, period students, but how we can facilitate things, make it a little bit more, I may say, user friendly. And in doing so, it was with COVID, it was like, look, we can't implement this because it is going to do things that, I mean, one, it's going to be great for the program, but not maybe as beneficial, especially with all the freezes on hiring and things like that. And so when I ran this by the committee, they're like, look, just hold off, weather it out, we got you. And then once things kind of, build back up, when things open up, then we can hit it back up. And I'm like, that's great. And that's the type of support that the committee gives, is because, look, we want to have a program, we want enrollment to grow, but in doing things, we have to also help facilitate, the learning process for students. And some of the changes were going to be, all of us thought were going to be like, great, this is going to help, increase enrollment. So now it's kind of like, well, we can't have that unveiling of a super, new curriculum and super new program idea. So we're going to have to weather the storm, with this COVID. And that's where, I mean, all the committee members were like, yep, no, this is, well, I can't say all who are present. Like, no, just hold tight, just, keep the ship straight. And once things open up, we'll, revisit that. But, and that's, that is the support that, we need and we have. And that's one thing that makes I think our program one of the strongest programs, is this from the support that we continually get from the profession, from industry, and from our advisory committee, and from the administration, their institution right now.
And I would suspect when you have interaction, dialogue with your counterparts in other programs across the country, I'm sure you're probably hearing some of the same kind of stuff from them too.
Mm-hmm. It is very difficult right now for them, but it's a little bit, enrollment's down across the board, and that's the big one. Is whenever enrollment goes down, people start looking at, well, is there a need for this? Well, of course there's a need for it. That's non-questionable. But now that's from my end as a professional surveyor, I mean, and as an instructor, I think, no, I mean, this, land surveying, we need it. I don't care whether it be any program. We need that type of skill set in our society. So now students or potential students, one, I mean, I know I had one. He come to me and he goes, "Hey, Wills, he was enrolled in the spring," and he goes, "Man, I'm sorry I haven't been here." He goes, but he goes, "I had to go to work." He goes, my dad got laid off, my mom got laid off, and he goes, "I had to go get a job." And I'm like, "Well," I said, "Can you get some stuff done for me?" And he goes, "I think so." And plus he just got married, and so it's like, yeah, I can get you hooked up. I said, but that's what we're facing right now as students. They may have to work. And so whenever we have a low enrollment, and they look at numbers, right now, I think our enrollment as I forget what date it was, May 20th perhaps, on the advisory committee. When I looked at that, it was like 33 full-time enrollees, which is kind of low. But then again, we look at the people who want to come in, they may be holding off a little bit. And that's, right now, I would encourage people. It's like, if you want to think about going to school, now's the time to do it. I mean, they might need a gentle push, a gentle nudge. And that's whenever I'm thinking and looking at the potential of student population base across all the surveying programs in the nation, is if people are working for firms and they're thinking about education or maybe wanting to do it, now's the time to do it. I mean, because one, we were deemed an essential service. It was like, some of the gentlemen on the advisory committee, they're working, they're busy. I mean, some of the survey, the two of the gentlemen that I know of, they're in Johnson City. they weren't able to be on here, but they're busy. And it's like, guys, let's hit this up. Let's do this. And that's what I'm finding is that now programs are faced with, well, your enrollment's low. Yeah, it is, but everybody's is low. And so whenever you have, again, the business side of education looking at, well, what, who's growing, who's not growing, well, what are we going to cut? And that's the biggest thing is, you can't, if a program's not eating resources, which again, we're pretty frugal, then they look at the main focus is, oh, well, how much are we, paying for, how much is this program costing us with all the factors? Then they're going to look at that cost benefit analysis. And that's what a lot of programs are facing is it's just not, I guess, financially, feasible right now, or if they're trying to find something to get rid of, a low enrollment program is going to be it.
Yeah, that seems to be something that we see everywhere all the time. I mean, it's almost like the programs are under constant scrutiny. It's not like it's not like you get over a hump and you're good. It's almost like it's constant all the time. And
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
From a recruitment standpoint, with the, I don't know if common market's the right terminology or not, with the various states or whatever. That's one of the things that when I talk to people that are working in the colleges, I'm always interested in the recruitment side because, what we try to do at NSPS and through the state societies, we try to help out whatever we can and, go to school counselor places and all those kind of things. But do you all have particular targets that you look at, that you attend, or what's the strategy for recruitment?
Well, the College of Business and Technology, they have a marketing and recruitment director, I guess you could say, and she does a wonderful job of getting a lot of information out to, I guess, various entities. Now, from my standpoint, my recruitment is more like a shotgun approach. Or a blunderbuss. I mean, I was going to, take it, I'm going to shoot at whatever targets I can hit. And in doing so now, historically in the past, the heaviest recruitment efforts have been, we go to the state conferences, we speak with surveyors, we take propaganda, and a lot of people you'll see that, and when we have booths available and we're really hitting it up. But honestly, I've talked to individuals at Texas Roadhouse. I've talked to my waiters, just in general conversation. I'm speaking with them, and it's like, here, call me, and that's what I want to do, is have a conversation, with people. And I know that we have a faculty meeting today to discuss, how we want to recruit or target people who've shown interest in our program. And letters are going out, we draft letters, but I think an email is really informal. I like email to be more just informational, like, hey, we're going to meet at 9:30. Great, cool. But I would much rather have a conversation with somebody, and that's the blunderbuss approach. Is I just want to get the little seed of, this sounds interesting, to somebody, and then call me. Go to the website, which again, the website again is very informal, and I think it's, honestly, it's a great tool to have, but it's kind of cold. I want students to talk to me, potential students. I would rather, take and talk to you, one-on-one, face-to-face, answer your, when not face-to-face, at least 6 feet apart, but have that phone conversation where you can hear me and hear my tone and hear my the passion for the program and for your education. And then those questions, because I can give you information all day long, but that's my recruitment approach. Is I want to get information and paraphernalia and get propaganda out there just to get your interest, and then you speak with, me, you speak with Professor Hong, you speak with Professor Taylor, and they're probably going to, all say the same thing. Talk to, Jared, or talk to our program advisor, Aaron Coker. It's like here, but that's the way that we get you engaged, and that's the way that recruitment and following into retention is going to happen. Is that one, that we care about you. We care about your education. We care about you as an individual. And then that's going to be like, well, these guys are legit. Yeah, we are. And then you roll in, you come into the program, and then you find that the program, one, is strong. There's good information. It's not easy. It's hard. But then again, we also care. I mean, and we understand that, you have a life, there is, because that's the landscape of education has changed over the past 30 years. I mean, it has changed drastically. And, I'm too speaking as a, collegiate level education, need to realize that, one, now you have people who are working. I mean, you have students, again, even graduating high school, they may be working at Lowe's, Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, wherever, and they have a job. They don't want to leave their job. They're making money. So, but they want to go to school too. I mean, they're like, I don't want to be work at Lowe's forever. I want to work at, I want to, have this type of career. Well, fine. We need to help facilitate that. And we can't just say, well, look, you got to quit, your, job and then come to school. No, that's not how recruitment's going to work. And that's how it used to be in the past. Now it's like, okay, great. Well, we can work with this. But here, let's guide you through this. And this is where that one-on-one conversation is going to happen. And that's how recruitment does happen. It's just getting the information and planting the seed of interest in, and then and then being able to reach out and speak to those people. And I mean speak, I mean talk to them, on the phone, on a Zoom session, an internet meeting, something. Give them that tangible feel that they're getting something.
Yeah, I like that approach. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you earlier. I don't know these numbers for any schools actually, but I'm just curious overall, and of course yours would be an example. Is there any obviously there's information, but what I'm curious about is the number of people who are coming in directly from high school, and then others are coming different paths, like you were just describing. And I don't know if that gets down to the recruitment side or not, but I'm just curious about that in today's world, because, at one time it's okay, you leave high school, you go to college. Well, I don't think that's happening as much now as it maybe did in the past.
We're looking at about 60-40. Honestly, we have about 60% of our student base, and again, those numbers aren't exact, but 60% of our student base are the distance students. They're working for surveyors. They have had additional career. They are second degree students. About 40% are our, maybe traditional. Well, see, some of them are non-traditional because they may have hit a community college and got some stuff out of the way. But generally, I would say that 40% base is coming straight out of your high school, coming into the program. And then that's the thing is I honestly don't know where the disconnect is there. But honestly, I'll tell you the truth. Me coming into the profession and the program, I did not know what a surveyor did. I didn't even know there was anything called a surveyor. I mean, when we're talking about George Washington, I mean, heck, that was the first president. He was a general. Great. I didn't know he was a surveyor. Henry David Thoreau, surveyor. It's like, cool. Lincoln, great. He was the president, during, the Civil War. Great. That's awesome. We learned that in history. Well, surveyor. So in my, journey, it was a thing of, heck, I was going to go to another college and become a biology teacher. That was going to be my thing. And my dad just happened to look it up on, ETSU because, again, I'm from Lee County, Virginia. And he goes, hey, have you ever thought about applying to ETSU? And I'm like, nope. And he goes, well, why don't you just apply to ETSU and look at surveying? I'm like, what is surveying? And he goes, well, I don't really know either, but, it's heavy in math and science. And I'm like, Okay, great. And then he and then he kind of looked it up. I mean, my father, an educated man, he was a college mathematics professor. And so I looked it up. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll apply. This what I want. This is what I would want to do if I went to ETSU. And it was a last minute thing. I said, yeah, fine, I'll go to ETSU. But no information, from the high school about. I mean, the heaviest recruiters there were the military. So, and that's something, those military guys, I mean, they definitely recruited. But the colleges, universities, it's just, they had college days. They had, the admissions teams, kind of pop up. And I don't know how to get information other than just go out and talk to them. But honestly, I think that, kids, and I know I'm talking, pre-high school graduates. I'm talking about like high school kids, we're talking, 9 through 12. Right, they're not really they're not thinking about college. I mean, they're thinking about Facebook, or I don't know, Facebook. That one of them told me that's an old person's app now. They did. I mean, I'm with the youth group at our church, and they said, well, Jerry, that's a old man app. I'm like, oh, great, thank you. But they're worried about how many, I guess, likes they're getting on their social media, and who they're going to go to, I guess, prom with, and even the seniors. Some of them are, were concerned about their education, but it was more from the parents' end. Push them. Okay, look, what are you going to do? What are you going to do whenever you graduate? And and again, I did try to recruit. I did, but I lost them. But it's hard, and I'm trying to figure out how. I think it's more of a mentality now, because some of them want to graduate high school. Okay, I've been in school for all this time. I'm going to take a few years, and then I'll come back. And that may be what the plan is, but I do know that the graduating high school seniors from a youth group, the reason that they're really going to college is because of their parents. The parents pushed them to look into things, and they're like, no, you're going to school. So that's honestly, I can say the same thing from my parents. They it was, nope, you're going to college, or nope, you're going to the military. That was basically it.
Right. Well, I appreciate you being with me today. We keep these things around 30 minutes, but I just wanted to get some insight because I've talked to a lot of different people, and I've talked to people from a number of schools, and that's one of the cool things about my job. I get to travel around and visit with people all over the place.
Yeah.
And that suits me really well. I like doing that. But I just wanted to have that conversation because I know you're not unique in the fact that you have arrangements with other states, but it's just sort of like this little hurricane sitting there in the middle of all those states, with reaching out to grab people from them and what have you. And I think it's a really good model, actually. And like I said, geographically, you're well suited for that.
Yeah, we are.
You are among all those states. So, but I really do appreciate you joining me today. And
thank you for having me.
Looking forward to continue being a part of the discussion. And I'm not much of an influence, but at least I can be there and be part of the discussion as the program progresses. And I'll let Steve and David be the main ones from Virginia.
Hey, everybody offers good. Everybody has good information, and that's the thing about it. Many hands make light work.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, Jared. I hope you have a good weekend and everything continues to go well.
I'm sure it will. We're definitely blessed. Thank you.
Sounds good.
You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.